The Greek general Pericles once said, "What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others." We're going to talk about that today in the show, and how leadership is not just trying to change a person or a group's behavior or a transformation of action for the here and now, the time being, but how leadership is actually woven into and intertwined into the psyche of the people that you are leading and helping to grow as leaders. What we as leaders have to accept is that we are leaving a legacy of leadership. Our actions don't just affect those we attempt to lead, but they shape them and their behavior for their entire lives. Or they should. A 2019 article by Dr. Sheila Murgan, she's a clinical psychologist. She explained that emotions and relationships that are negative are have a de-energizing connection and can impact someone up to 4 to 7 times greater than positive impacts. Emotions are like a virus that can spread, she went further to say. So what are you spreading and leaving behind? In the show, we're going to talk about the 2 pathways that you can leave behind, that you're forging for the people that you're leading. Are they a pathway that leads them to failure, or a pathway that's going to help them become an even better leader than you are? That should be our intent. Welcome back to the show.
I think part of the role of being a leader and chasing success at that and chasing accomplishment and being a leader, a lot of what gets lost is that you are leaving a legacy of your leadership. And too many times people get caught up in numbers or power rather than the legacy that they're leaving and that they're building, and they lose sight of who they're bringing up as they go along. Um, that's really my approach as I help my assistant or other assistants I've had. I know that they're going to be a head coach one day. I was in that very same role 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was as green as a gourd, and I had really quality people that I just happened to be blessed to be under that helped me grow. Because we leave a legacy, we leave a tree. I love that. I love that metaphor there of leaving a coaching tree. But it also, along the way, as you build that legacy and you bring these people in and you share this ownership with them, you're also building trust between not just them trusting you because you're giving them things, but you're showing them that you trust them with your job. Because if I share ownership of something with my assistant and it gets messed up, which that's not the case in my present situation, but if it were, whose neck is on the line? It's not her, it's mine. That demonstrates trust, and that in itself is empowering.
Well, for us on the military side, there's a couple of, man, there's so many nuggets on this. I don't even know where to start with this. For us, one of the ways that we ensure that is back briefs. So, hey, these are my expectations. This is my vision. All right, now, what are we trying to get done with this? And make that person bring back, just so that you understanding. At the end of the day, we want to take that hill. Okay, I expect us to go up the front, but if that doesn't work, we still got to get that hill at the end of the day. So let's go. And I think that that's kind of what you're getting at with this is that, man, okay, I'm done. I could ramble on this. I'm afraid we'll go off into like a big rambling. We may need to break this one down a little bit further at a later date because one of the other things that you said earlier when we're talking about like the specifics, a lot of times when I've brought in somebody new, I'm thinking back to when I first came in. What things did I get that were beneficial, and what things that I wish I had that I did never get? And though both of those things are what I am trying to provide that person. As far as the data goes, kind of like what we were talking about earlier on the information. What things did I not have, and what things did I have? The things I wish I had and the things I did have, or how good were they? And then try to pass that on. Military side, there's all kinds of products that we pass along. And then, on the corporate side, I've always tried to help individuals who are trying to break into the strength conditioning side of it. I had a guy that I've talked to. I've talked to him 3 times this week that had recently applied for a position and didn't get picked for it. And I don't know that guy. He's one of my clients' associates. It's a crazy thing. But as we were working through it, I was like, listen, hey, give me a call. Let me help you through this. Because I can remember when I first was breaking into the strength conditioning side of it, how difficult it is to get into this industry. And these are the things that you need to know. Because, man, he's looking at all kinds of different certifications. What all certifications do I need? This is what I'm planning on getting. I'm going to get my degree in this. He's looking at all these certifications. Hey, you need a couple of them. You either need something for Olympic, something for strength conditioning. That's what you need to do if you're wanting to continue along these paths. But all these additional fluff certifications, don't waste your time. He's like, man, I'm so glad you're talking to me about this stuff. And I can remember I had a great mentor that helped me break in. And Jamie, if you're out there and you're listening, I really appreciate you still to this day. I hadn't seen him in years, but he helped me get into it. He taught me a lot of things about the industry, how to work in it. And for me, I've always tried to pay that forward and give it back to anybody new that's coming in. There's no sense in hoarding that information. It doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do any clients any good. It doesn't do you any good as a new strength coach coming in. And it doesn't do me any good to die with it. Why not pass it along?
So let's keep talking about these practical ways to screw up an emerging leader or to level up an emerging leader. And so your points have been so far micromanaging and hoarding information.
Yep.
And then the counter to that for me was helping them realize their role and then sharing ownership. Right. And so now I want to focus on that back briefing, like you said, because that's kind of leading us into our next points. The back briefing for me is really important because it can serve as a verbal assessment of where my leader that I'm trying to help lead, as well as where is the leadership growth or gaps in leadership growth of the people that we're collectively leading. And then also gaps in my assisting in them growing as a leader. That's for me, that's those back briefs, those assessment conversations are so important to the next couple of points I have. It's almost like a transition into the next thing you need to do. So as an example, some of those practical things for me might look like just one starts with a checkup on that person, right? Like you're in this job now, you've had some time in it. How do you feel about it now? And how is it affecting positively or negatively your life away from here, outside of this environment? That's going to tell me how much anxiety they're getting from this, right? And from the pressures that I'm giving them. And that's going to tell me if I need to pump the brakes a little bit, or if they're feeling really good, maybe I can give them a little bit more, right? And then also, it's a great way for me to assess what they're ready for next. So if I go ahead.
What man, there's so much on it. I wanted to talk for the whole time that you've been talking, man. I ain't gonna lie. Here's what I'm hearing from you is that you use that back brief mainly as a communication assessment initially, right? Is what I'm giving you. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Yes. Got it. Okay. On down the road, you're using it as a leash gauge. Can I give them more leash? Do they need more room to run? Or do I need to tighten it up with them to make sure that we're staying on the right azimuth? Are we still going in that right direction? Let's close the gap just a little bit and make sure that we're staying on the same page, because once they've gone way too far off, it's hard to rein that back in. So it sounds to me like you are discussing two main points. Communication. Are we communicating well? How are you doing as a person? How are things going on home life? How is this affecting you? You're getting feedback, and you've established that earlier based on the communication that you've set up, the expectations. Are we meeting those? And you can openly discuss those things. And then from there, based on the communication you're getting back, you're assessing how much further we can go, what things you need to do to help this person grow, and how much more of the program can they take hold of and gain and be able to hold on to and make their own, as long as it's staying in line with where you're wanting to go. I'm seeing a lot of head nodding. That means I'm tracking what you're putting down.
Spot on. It's really, if you want to simplify what we said, it's going to tell me if they're ready for something new or if they need to refine what they got.
Expand or refine.
Expand or refine.
I like it.
Yeah. And so, like I said, from there, I can see what other things they feel like they're ready for. And those might be things where it might be a list of things that they didn't know, and now they know about, but they don't know. They know of, but not about. Let me change my wording up there. They know of, but not know about. And so now I can begin to show them that,
coach
again,
them along
how much coach them along.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that back brief, that assessment conversation tool is then going to lead me to giving them the chance to reflect. And for me, that's one of my next points is reflect and then refine or grow. But they need to do that on their own. Like, did I fall on my face with this thing? Or did I really knock it out of the park? And I can give them feedback on that. And by this point in the process, you've acknowledged, you've empowered, you've helped them realize their role, you've helped others around them realize their role, you've shared ownership of them. So much trust is just building, right? And so now the feedback I give, I'm going to get an honest reflection from them. And I'm going to get an honest reflection of how they see me fitting into their leadership resume, to bring back your term from last time.
We talk all the time about how many times the sports world and the military world, the leadership things that you want, they very much mirror each other. They're not always the same. It may not be the same song, but it definitely rhymes, And so, like what you're saying right there reminds me of one of the troop leading procedures from the military, which is supervise and refine. And like when you're talking about that, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're sitting there watching, like, okay, well, we need to fix a little bit of this. We need to fix a little bit of that. We need to get this ready. And it's not exactly what you're talking about with that leader, but you're going to end up doing the same thing. You're seeing what is happening and what little things that we can tweak to make that person a little bit better. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. What we're talking about here still, and we talk about this every show, I think, at least I try to get this in, because my biggest thing is being selfless. As a leader, you need to be selfless. When what we're trying to do is put this person in a position to be successful. So let's get them over there. It's not about you. Let's get them over there. If you've got 6 assistant coaches and they are all successful, you're going to be really successful. And you only had to manage 6 people. You didn't have to manage 80 kids. You're managing 6 people. And you as a company commander, it's the same way. I got 4 platoon leaders. I got 4 PLs. Hey, if these guys are successful, all my platoons are successful, I'm good to go.
Mhm. So I've got a few things here that I wanted to talk about when it comes to you, the leader that are helping this emerging leader, and what you need to do next after you've helped them with all these other steps that I've mentioned. And now they've hit this moment of growth where, boy, they're really ready for you to hand them the staff. But before I talk about that, I want you to go ahead and hit that next point because I'm excited to hear this one.
All right.
That part of not being selfless, hoarding information and micromanaging, and not being selfless leads you to throw an emerging. Or sorry, I almost took it from you. Leads you to do this with the emerging leader.
Okay. So here's what happens on the Yang side of it. If you take your new leader and you throw him to the wolves, it's game over. That is a huge issue. Putting them out there before they're prepared, before you've properly set them in place. Yeah, you can give somebody the authority to be in command, and individuals underneath them have to respect them because of their placeholder, because of their name tag. But at the end of the day, there's that respect only goes so far. Okay. And what you can't do is you can't give it to them throw them out there with no expectations, with no training, with no guidance. If you put them out there that way and let them just show up, that ain't gonna fly. You cannot do that. And I have seen that happen in a corporate setting, and God forbid, I have seen that also on the military side. And man, it's ugly because that, like I said, that respect for that name tag only goes so far before there's some pushback. And that person cannot be successful without that. You've got to have that ability, the knowledge passed along. You've got to make sure that they're ready. It doesn't matter what is on their resume before they come in. They could be a fantastic manager of wherever they were managing at, if you're on the corporate side. But you know what? We're not talking about managers. You manage disasters. We're talking about leaders. What do leaders do? They lead you out of those disasters. You want somebody that's going to manage it? Those people are a dime a dozen. That's not what we want. You can throw somebody out there like, oh, it's only so bad. Maybe it won't be too much worse than this. That ain't what we're looking for. Let's get the people in. Let's get them out. Lead them out.
I think what you're also referring to here is or a perspective that can be taken with that sort of action is also a symbolic gesture to everyone else, even the people, in your case, to soldiers that aren't in an authoritative position or an officer. It's a symbolic gesture, and not just in the military, in any other environment, corporate, education, whatever it may be. It's a symbolic gesture of what you're just going to allow to happen. It's a complete lapse of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's, hey, we're okay with this happening. We're okay with being unprepared. We're okay with being undisciplined, unsettled, not ready. We're okay with being complacent and mediocre.
Yep. And so, man, that's absolutely disgusting. What you're saying is gross. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's lazy leadership from on high. I mean, yeah, you can introduce somebody as, hey, this is your new platoon leader. But it's another thing when you put them in position to be successful and you give them some direction, like, hey, this is what I need from you today. Hey guys, this is what you guys are getting out there after. Y'all have at it. PL, I expect you to get out there and knock this out. Get them in position, let them do their thing. Hey, y'all gonna run battle drill 1 Alpha. Fantastic. Let's go, because everybody knows that one. And then let him get out there and do his thing. I didn't tell him how to do it, where to do it. Just make it happen. Hey, how did it go? Hey, it went fantastic. Great. Those are all things that any PL right out of the gate, they should understand how to do this. They should be ready to execute this. That's something that can happen easily. Just the same as, if you had a new assistant coach, that's your new goalie coach, and you're like, hey, go run, I don't know, whatever. I'm making up some dive drills, whatever drill it is. Make sure that they execute this properly. And then they can go out there and they can give a little bit of the coaching, give a little bit of their background on it. You can watch them do their work and bring it back. But you're not going to take that goalie coach and put them out there. Somebody that has been a goalie before, you've hired them on as a fantastic goalie coach, and you're like, hey, goalie coach, I need you to go out here and run with the forwards, and y'all are going to go run whatever drill and cut it loose and leave them out there. And they're going to be like, what drill is this? You've given them no training on this and expect them to be out there and execute that. And they're going to be out there asking the other players are like, hey, what drill are we doing? What is this? That very much destroys how those players see that coach at that point. They don't see him as a leader. They're bumbling. They don't know what they're doing. So if they get later on, give them another drill to do, are they going to trust them? Was that a break in trust because you set them up for failure because you didn't train them? You didn't go over this, and you knew ahead of time that they're a goalie coach. They're spot on. They're a killer with the goalie, but you didn't put them in that position to be successful.
You're leading me right to the point I wanted to make. Once you acknowledge, empower, help them realize their role, share some ownership, build trust along the way, have these back brief assessments so that you can see where your gaps are, not just your gaps, their gaps, and the gaps in our program, regardless of environment. Then they can really begin to reflect. I mentioned that a second ago, not just reflect, but then be handed more opportunity, which is going to give them a chance to be more impactful. And then it's time for you to get out of the way. It is time for you as the leader helping this emerging leader to step aside and stay aside and let them not just grow in their leadership, but in that role, but to live it and walk it, because now they're ready.
It sounds like you're saying you're going to let them do their job. I mean, that's what it sounds
they're
like.
Prepared
it sounds like you're saying don't micromanage him.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Spot on. And now they're prepared for it. They're not being thrown to the wolves. They're not being thrown to the wolves. They're out there leading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you refer to it? Leading lions?
Oh, man. Hey, anybody can lead sheep. Leading sheep is easy. Leading lions, that's hard. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to create. You as a leader, your goal should be to lead lions.
Spot on. Spot on. Captain?
Yes, sir.
I think that the tribe has spoken.
The tribe has spoken. Let's wrap this joker up.
Okay. If you are progressing leadership, then you are finding ways to level up, and not to just level up your leadership, but the people you're helping emerge. You're building trust in them. You're acknowledging them. You're empowering them, helping them realize their role, sharing ownership. You're assessing yourself and them. You're both growing. And then it's time for you to get out of the way and help that leader get to work and handle their business. If you are suppressing leadership, then you're probably micromanaging to the point that you're hoarding information, and then you're effectively throwing this fledgling leader to the wolves.
Woo, boy, it was hot. The tribe has spoken, baby.
Everybody, thanks for joining Captain Thompson and I again on the Tribe Has Spoken podcast. If you don't follow us on YouTube or Buzzsprout or Apple or Google Podcasts, get there and go subscribe so you don't miss anything.
We'll see you guys next week.
There's so many great points in the show today. I believe I can sum up what Alan and I were trying to say into a simple question, though. And here goes. Are you throwing your people, your emerging leaders, are you throwing them to the wolves, or are you handing them the staff? As I was thinking about that question and about the show, I began to think about the symbolism of the staff. So, in terms of a shepherd and a shepherd's staff, there are three main things that are symbolized by the staff. One is stability. When the shepherd begins that occupation and takes over a flock, many times they were young boys or taking over for their father. Regardless of the scenario, the staff was a walking stick that helped provide stability. 2, protection. If there were predators seeking to attack the flock, the shepherd could use the staff for protection. And then 3, correction. Whenever a member of the flock was not meeting expectations or got lost, then the staff was used to correct. For our leaders that we are shaping, that we are helping to grow, we've got to provide them stability in their pathway until they're ready to stand on their own. We've also got to teach them how to uphold their values, ethics, standards, as well as those of the organization and the expectations that we set forth for our organization, our culture, our teams. And then correction. Correction is just accountability. It's that simple. Can they learn to hold themselves accountable? And that will empower them and make them more than capable to hold others accountable. The step-by-step process that we talked about that is so simple yet so hard to execute is to identify that leader's strengths and weaknesses, acknowledge that person as a leader as well as their strengths and their weaknesses so that they can not see those things as failures if there are weaknesses, but rather opportunities to grow, and then support them and teach them how to grow those things. That 3-step process helps build trust. Secondly, to help them realize their capability as a leader and then share ownership with them so that they can see what their leadership legacy is going to look like, to just get a glimpse of it. And now they'll start to form a vision of their leadership legacy, and then finally pass the staff and let these people lead. Let them begin to take those first steps without you walking in front of them, but rather walking along beside them. That step-by-step process is so empowering, but again, it's so hard to execute. If you would like the coaches at the Tribe to come along beside you and help you with that process as you grow as a leader and as you seek to learn how to help other leaders grow, send us an email at tribehaspokenchief23@gmail.com, or just follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our newsletter, and there you can get some of these processes that we use as well as our email address, so that again you can contact us, and we would be glad, we would love to come along beside you leaders and help you in whatever organization it is that you lead. I hope you enjoyed the show this week. I hope you take away so many things there that are going to help you be a great servant leader, and I hope you all have a blessed week.